Tony Poulos at TM Forum's Management World Congress in Dublin for 2011. Today, one of our keynote presenters was Neil Montefiore, the CEO of StarHub in Singapore. Neil, welcome.
Good to be here.
We're a long way from home, aren't we?
We are.
You came over and told this audience all about the Singapore market. What were the key elements of your presentation regarding that?
I really wanted to talk about the smartphone revolution that was happened in Singapore, started in the end of '09, and then go on to explain the way we were building the next generation network and how far we got with that, which is a fibre to every home and fibre to every business.
How does the next generation network rollout affect incumbent operators, which you really are when you think about it in Singapore?
Well, we think in one way it will introduce more competition, so that's something we've got to deal with, and on the other hand it offers us a new market which we can't access at the moment, particularly in the enterprise market. Our current network only covers about 1,000 or so buildings in the central business district. There are about 20,000 commercial buildings in Singapore, which we now will have access to, so that gives us a big opportunity.
But on the residential side, you have massive rollout of your existing cable infrastructure. What happens to that?
Well, we're looking at that. The cable infrastructure does deliver 100 megabits per second broadband, and it delivers the linear TV very well. So I think it will be around for a while, but over time we think that most of the services in Singapore will migrate across to the next generation all optical fibre network.
You talk about a smartphone revolution. What do you mean by it? What's your thinking on that?
Well, it happened December '09 when all operators got access to the iPhone. The number of phones sold in Singapore on a monthly basis doubled, and it's stayed at that level ever since. And a lot of them are smartphones. Now, every month we sell about 97% of what we sell as smartphones. And now just under 80% of Singaporeans use smartphones.
Wow.
So it's quite a revolution, yeah. And
there's a very high penetration as well, isn't there?
Very high penetration, just under 150% penetration.
Tell me, with the data challenge, we're getting a lot of course these new smartphones are boosting our data. How are we going to monetize that? How are you going to monetize it?
Well, there's two things. One is we're not driven by the capex as other operators are, because we had a sort of a data revolution with the USB modems, or dongles as people call them, and still 70% of the data on our network is carried by those. So we've already developed our networks. We have all our IP backhaul and very high-speed radio interfaces, 42 megabits per second. So we don't have that issue that we have to put capex in to carry the smartphones, but we do like to see the increase of the data usage on the phones monetized in some way. So we're looking at various ways we can do that. In other countries, people have taken a big step, like putting in tiered data plans rather than all-you-can-eat plans. But they're probably more driven by the capex side. They want to try and reduce the quantity of data, otherwise they've got to invest more in the network. We don't have that issue. So we're looking at other ways of doing it. So looking at perhaps social networking, so we can offer free access to Facebook or whatever, Twitter or whatever. But if you really want to use it for very heavy data applications, you pay a bit more.
Of course, you're a multiplayer. You're past the quad play stage even. Is there benefit in that with the smartphones you were able to sell across?
Definitely. I mean, we've had all our TV channels. We've had about 32 of our 180 channels, linear channels, on mobiles for some years. But now with the smartphones, people are really starting to watch it. So we got over 220,000 people regularly watch TV on the smartphones, and typical viewing time is about 11 minutes. So it's quite good.
Are you able to think in the future increase the ARPU for the Singapore customers?
Well, what we've seen with the smartphones is we get an increased ARPU of around $10 a month. So typical average ARPU is about $70. With the smartphone, it's around $80. So we are seeing some improvement there.
There'd be a lot of other operators very envious of those figures.
Well, there are, but the other issue you've seen in action when you measure the ARPUs is that more and more people are carrying more than one phone now, including me. I carry about 3. Yes. So we see the use of voice and text and data spread across more units.
Neil Montefiore, we're a long way from home in Dublin, but thank you so much for being here.
Okay, thank you.